Welcome to, is this Stick and Ball Symposium?
This is Sticks and Balls Symposium.
Welcome back. The
First
big return.
ever webcam podcast stream for us, I think.
Yep. This is big. This is big time. It's NFL draft season, so we decided to come back strong with one of my mock drafts. I've done about 100 probably. I love the NFL draft. I get excited for it every year, looking at all these prospects. It's especially really cool because you get to actually know these players as they grow in the league. You can see them go from year to year. You know, like, oh, like that guy I didn't mock very high, but he ended up, being a great player. So it's really exciting. This is gonna be fun. We're gonna get kind of crazy. For trades, you kind of just have to I'm not gonna worry about actual value. It's more like just getting the trade to go through. Like if I have a team trade up, I'm just gonna make it so that on the website they'll accept it, so that it just because I think those trades could happen. I don't know the exact returns that there's going to be, so that's just to make it easier. So
yeah, and the reason why we're having just Ellis do this is because I don't follow college. I'm a casual. I don't follow college very closely. I'd say I followed it more than I have been these past 2 years. But
you've definitely gotten more and more into it. So
I don't really follow it that much, though.
I'm interested to see how you react to some of these. Is what it comes down to. Some people don't really fully understand draft value and positional value and stuff like that, and I'll try to explain as I go along. So, also, I'm not an expert by any means. I don't watch a ton of tape or anything. I follow through. I pay attention to a lot of mocks from Daniel Jeremiah and a lot of those guys, and just a lot of those official mock drafts. I like to follow through and see, the scouting reports on certain players. So it's gonna be fun. We can get into this. So you want to do 2 rounds?
Yeah, we'll do 2 rounds. Get the high value guys. Let them get drafted. See where they go.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So it's gonna be exciting. And once we get into this, first of all, first pick is Caleb Williams. That's not even debatable. It's pretty much completely known that's what it's going to be. He's one of the best quarterback prospects of all time. He's probably the best. I mean, Trevor Lawrence was generational. Caleb Williams is also generational in that same tier. I mean, he's an incredible improviser. He's got incredible arm strength. The really only flaws you can find on him that people agree upon is that he kind of gives up on structure a little too quickly. He kind of leans on his improvisational skills, but they're so good that he always makes it work. So good at USC the last couple years. I mean, the talent is just absolutely incredible. So he's the first overall pick. If he's not a franchise quarterback for the Bears, then they'll never have one because they're absolutely cursed. They haven't had a good quarterback since the 40s. So
yeah, and I gotta say, I don't know how hard of a take this is. Personally, I would not take Caleb Williams, not because of any skills, but just the type of person that I've seen out of him. I don't want him on my team.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, obviously, in this, it comes down to a lot of attitude is a big thing with some of these young players. There was some stuff that came out about Malik Neighbors, who's the consensus number 2 receiver in this draft. Some stuff about, some off the field issues. That was mostly confirmed to be made up. So you also don't know what to trust with all that. Yeah. Caleb Williams has garnered some of that heat, and I do understand why some people would be a bit more hesitant because of that. In this scenario, though, it seems like the Bears, they've got their guy. I mean, sometimes a player this talented, it's that. You can't go any other direction.
Yeah. If you were to go another direction at quarterback, though, I think number 2 is probably the guy you got to go with there.
Oh, yeah. Drake May is phenomenal. Drake May is my favorite player in the class, besides probably Cooper DeJean, but that's because I'm from Iowa, so it's Drake May is absolutely fantastic. Honestly, this draft is much more 1A and 1B with Drake May because it really comes down to Drake May's better in structure. He's got a strong arm. He's still a good athlete like Caleb Williams. He's not quite as good of a runner, but he can make athletic plays if you need him to. But just such a strong arm in the function of the offense. You give him some protection, he will absolutely pick defenses apart. He's got so much potential to be a top-tier quarterback in that way. Caleb Williams is more of an improvisational guy, more of a runner. So, Caleb Williams is generational, but Drake May really, I mean, he would have been the number 1 quarterback in last year's draft, easily. He would have gone over Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, all those guys. Based on prospects. Obviously, C.J. Stroud was a great rookie, but based on prospects, that's how great Drake May is. However, with the number 2 pick, it seems, because this is based on what I think is going to happen, not what I would do. I think Drake May is the best quarterback available once Caleb Williams is gone. But everything that Washington has done this offseason seems to be that they're gearing up for Jaden Daniels. Now, I don't agree.
I think so.
I don't agree that they should. They signed Marcus Mariota, Jaden Daniels-like player. They hired Cliff Kingsbury, who has only coached players like Jaden Daniels. And the type of offense that LSU was is the exact offense that they're setting up in Washington. So it seems like that's the guy they want. I mean, Drake May, I think it should be the pick. But it looks like that's what Washington wants Jaden Daniels. I'm not a huge Jaden Daniels guy. That's kind of my big hot take. He only had one productive season with an absolute stacked roster around him. He's an older prospect. The arm strength isn't absolutely there, but he's an incredible runner. He's got running ability on the same level as Lamar Jackson coming out of college. Absolutely explosive player. Can make plays all over the field. As far as throwing, he's not as accurate throwing inside the numbers. He's more big play on the outside, scramble when you need him to. It's very exciting, and he could be a serious threat at the NFL level. He progresses a lot as a thrower in 2023, but he's not on the same level as Williams and Drake May. It just seems that this is the direction that Washington looks to go at this time. This could be completely wrong. They could go Drake May. Apparently, there was a report that they like J.J. McCarthy. I don't think J.J. McCarthy goes second overall, but you never know what'll happen. Like, you never know. Zach Wilson went second overall a few years ago, so.
That is very true.
Yeah. It just seems that that's what it's going to be. So now, it first gets really interesting at the Patriots, because apparently they are willing to trade back. A lot of reports go out during draft season. You don't know what's smoke and what isn't, what's actually real. But the Patriots need a quarterback bad. So I don't see a situation like they could be a trade down team. We're gonna get to it. We're gonna get to a trade up, crazy trade up here in a second. But when it comes, if Drake May is available, there's no reason the Patriots should not take him, because he is as. This makes me so upset because I hate the Patriots and I love Drake May. But this is just too good of a pairing. I mean, you got a new offense. You're a rebuilding team. You got new players. You got a new head coach. Finally out of the Bill Belichick era. You bring in a young guy like Drake May who can develop into an elite quarterback in the NFL. So I think this is just a perfect fit for them.
Sounds pretty painful for Drake May to go there, but it makes sense.
Suck. It does suck. It's very unfortunate, but. It just makes the most sense. If he's there, the Patriots would be absolutely foolish to pass on him. I did have a mock recently where I had them trade back and then trade back up, and because this is a really deep quarterback class, but Drake May is just too good.
I did have a question I forgot to ask for Jaden Daniels' pick. Cliff Kingsbury is the former Cardinals head coach, right?
Yeah, he was the Cardinals head coach.
Okay.
Yeah, so Jaden Daniels, very similar to Kyler Murray type player, so you can see those connections there. It just... Like that's just what it seems to be what they're gearing up for. They signed Marcus Mariota. Typically, when a team's looking for a new young rookie quarterback and they sign a backup quarterback, they're gonna draft a guy in the same play style as the veteran backup they sign. Marcus Mariota, Jaden Daniels are much more similar than any other comp in this draft. So,
very interesting.
The Cardinals, I actually like as a potential trade down team, but I'm not going to. Because here's the thing. The top 3 picks are all quarterbacks, whether it's trade outs or the top 2 Bears and Commanders, I'm pretty confident, are going to take quarterbacks. The Patriots could trade out to another quarterback needy team, or they're going to take a quarterback. 4 and 5, I think, is going to end up being another trade up spot for J.J. McCarthy. I know a lot of people don't like J.J. McCarthy, but NFL teams seem to really do, and we'll talk about him when we get to him. And Marvin Harrison Jr. Marvin Harrison Jr. does not slip out of the top 5 in any situation. The Cardinals have a huge need at wide receiver. He could be your next Larry Fitzgerald, and I just think if you're trying to build this team around Kyler, Marvin Harrison Jr. just makes the most sense right here. You could trade back, pick up some capital, but a player like this, you probably just want to take him because he's one of the best receiver prospects in a very long time. I know you're a big Marvin Harrison Jr. fan.
I am. Being a huge Ohio State fan, following very intently.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously I've watched some games, but even the limited amount of games I've watched, Marvin Harrison Jr. is so good.
He's incredible. He's the best receiver prospects that you could ask for. I mean, he does everything right. If you look at the pros and cons of his game, they'll say, he plays a little too tall, and sometimes he gets ahead of himself during the play. That's pretty much it. He's got ideal size as an X receiver, as an outside receiver. Incredible hands, incredible route runner. Is aggressive, is able to find the ball very well. Great body control, everything you could want in a wide receiver. There's no chance he doesn't turn out to be a great player in the league. He's got all the makeup to be. He will probably end up being as good as his dad, who is arguably a top 10 quarterback of all, or wide receiver of all time. Don't know why I said quarterback, but now
can't lie, Ellis, you're cooking with the list right now.
Now this is where it gets interesting. So this is what I've been mocking a bit around this area. I will say I am a Minnesota Vikings fan. How I feel about this, I'm not exactly sure, but I believe this is the spot that the Vikings will trade up with the Los Angeles Chargers to pick number 5. Now, like I said at the beginning, I'm not sure what the exact specifics would be. I'll just throw some stuff in here just to make it work. Trading up for a quarterback is very expensive, as we've seen. Look at what the Panthers gave up to get Bryce Young. It's definitely going to be, for sure, as far as this mock goes, it would probably be the first, both first-round picks this year. I don't know if the Vikings don't even have a second pick this year because of what we gave up for pick 23. So I'm just going to see if this gets accepted. Yeah, that was accepted. So definitely both of Vikings' first round this year are going to go to the Chargers. Now, the Chargers trading back is a little weird because they desperately need a receiver. This is a very deep wide receiver class. There are 5 or 6 receivers that are very deserving of a round 1 pick. The Chargers trade back, get a couple extra picks. I just think it makes the most sense. The Vikings move up to 5 because we desperately need our quarterback of the future, and it looks like we want J.J. McCarthy. How do I feel about this as a Vikings fan? I think McCarthy's very talented. I think he gets overhated. Most people like to say that he doesn't deserve to be a first-round pick because he played at Michigan, which was a run-heavy offense, which, he did what he needed to win, and he won a national championship. Apparently winning is a big thing for NFL teams, looking at college quarterbacks that win. I know obviously winning is a team stat, but when he needed to, he delivered the ball on time. He had great accuracy, very clutch on 3rd and 4th downs when he needed to make plays. He did. He's got great athletic ability, great ability to scramble. It's just everything that you would want in a general first-round NFL quarterback. The talent is there. It's just not all the tape is there because, Michigan was a run-first team, and they won a lot of games that way. So, could McCarthy be a great quarterback in the league? Absolutely. And this looks like it's probably going to be a big trade-up somewhere in here. This is kind of poetic because McCarthy was Jim Harbaugh's quarterback at Michigan. So this is a chance for him to kind of decide who he goes to with the Chargers trading back. So that's kind of cool. So the Vikings trade up to 5 and take McCarthy. I know he's probably your favorite quarterback in the class, Justin.
Honestly, no. Just no.
The New York Giants is fun as we get to them at number 6. I just think they have so many needs, but their most pressing is probably receiver if they don't go quarterback. It looks like they're sticking with Daniel Jones for a while. After this season, they have an out on that contract, so they're probably just going to wait this one out, see how he does next year, coming off the ACL tear, I think it was. Whatever he got injured with. But with a player like Malik Neighbors, in 99% of draft classes, Malik Neighbors is wide receiver 1 because he is that talented. An absolute machine as far as his speed, his catching ability. He's about as good as it gets. It's just this draft happens to have Marvin Harrison Jr. in it, so he ends up not being the number 1 receiver. But this is an incredible receiver class, like I said. And then this is how I don't see a scenario where Neighbors doesn't end up to the Giants because it's such a big need for them. He's so talented. Once you see the first 5 picks are Marvin Harrison Jr. and 4 quarterbacks, most likely with a trade-up in there. And then 6 is Malik Neighbors. And 7, there's no chance it's not Joe Alt. Joe Alt's going to the Titans. I would bet so much on that unless for some reason the Giants took him. You could see the Giants take him. But Joe Alt is the best offensive tackle in this draft. So valuable to get a day 1 starting left tackle. He's an absolute mauler. He's a monster. He's great at pass blocking. He's great at run blocking. He's as good of an offensive tackle prospect as it gets. Titans need that desperately, especially if they're going to start building around Will Levis. So I see like a 99% chance that Joe Alt is a Titan by the time the draft happens next week. Falcons. The Falcons is interesting. I've thought about trade downs here. I'm not going to get that crazy and actually do a trade down. But where do they actually draft? I think throughout this draft cycle, there's one player that I felt is really going to be the first defensive player off the board, and that will be Dallas Turner, and it'll continue to be.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, the Falcons' offense is set now. You went and got your quarterback. You got Kirk Cousins. Miss him. You've got a great offense already that's going to be fine. And your defense was solid last year. You're just missing a few key pieces. Dallas Turner is... he's a little undersized. That's the one knock against him. But he is insanely explosive. He's one of those fast, twitchy, just get-off-the-line defensive ends that any team would love to have. He can develop into an incredible pass rusher in the league. This is not a great defensive class. It's a stacked offensive class. But this is where I see Dallas Turner going as the first defensive player off the board. Now the Bears. The Bears have done, in my opinion, everything right this offseason. It's actually terrifying because the team they have built up with some of the moves that they've made is just absolutely fantastic. Now, what it really comes down to is that I think that they're going to trade back on this pick, but who is going to trade up? And this is a fun one. So you have another generational player in this draft in Brock Bowers. He's a tight end. Tight ends don't usually go that high, but Brock Bowers is the best tight end prospect since Kyle Pitts, and maybe even better. He's as good as it gets. Now, what team would really want a tight end but would also be willing to trade up? Now, what works really well is the Cincinnati Bengals have a ton of picks in this draft, and the Chicago Bears, if you look at this, only have 4 total picks. They have the first overall pick, the 9th overall pick, and they have 2 later on in the draft. They have absolutely nothing. Now, let me try to make sure that this gets accepted. I think that the Bengals try to trade up to 9, and they'll probably have to give up a lot. They'll probably have to give up a second in the next year, and then I think offering a lot of these later picks just to bolster up the Bears draft. I think I got rejected.
Man,
that's kind of weird. But I just like this fit so much. The Bears, they don't need to take anything too pressing here. They went out and traded for Keenan Allen, so that doesn't stop you from drafting a receiver here, but you don't necessarily need to until later in the draft get some guys that'll be on the team after Keenan Allen is gone. What do I have to give up here? Let's just to make this accepted. And the Bengals, this Bengals offense, if you trade up here and you take Brock Bowers, just think about that. You have Joe Burrow throwing to Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, who requested a trade, but it looks like he's planning to play. He's probably going to be under contract for the Bengals at least for the next year. You have Brock Bowers, you have Chase Brown, and who's that other running back they just got? Zach Moss. Zach Moss. And now you look at this offense and you add Brock Bowers, it's complete for this next season. And if you're trying to compete with the Chiefs in the AFC, you need a complete offense. This is terrifying. And I love this fit. I love that the Bears would try to bolster up their picks later in the draft because they have no picks in this draft. I think this is a perfect trade-up. Then we get to the Jets. The Jets are interesting because Rome Odunze is here. How often, when I do these mocks, is Rome Odunze available at 10? Is he really going to be available at 10 in the actual draft? It's possible. He's so talented. He's also in that, this draft is really wide receiver 1A, 1B, and 1C. And it's Harrison, Neighbors, Odunze. They're all 3 fantastic, all 3 in different ways. Odunze isn't as much of a separator. He's more of a go up and catch the ball. Very great body control. Could use his size well. But it is interesting of where this is going to end up. But I think the pick has to be... The Jets' offensive line is absolutely awful. And I love Olu Fashanu. Olu Fashanu is fantastic. But I think the Jets picking Telize Fuaga makes more sense. They signed Tyron Smith. That's cool. He's definitely going to get injured. He always gets injured. He's a great player. But he's a great player right now. He's also pretty old. Fuaga is an absolute mauler, incredible tackle. He could play guard, but it turned out usually if tackles have shorter arms, they'll move into guard in the league. Apparently at the Combine, he measured him very well. He's a plug-and-play right tackle. You could even play him at left tackle if you wanted to. You could move him into guard. He's got offensive line flexibility. There aren't as many talented linemen in this draft as Fuaga, and I just think that's a cornerstone for your offense for the next few years. And you got to protect Aaron Rodgers. You already wasted one of your years with him, so you need to do whatever you can to keep him protected back there so he can actually throw the ball to a guy like Mike Williams, who you also picked up, so you don't necessarily need to go receiver here either. So that's what that comes down to. And then that works out perfectly for the Chargers because they traded back, and Rome Odunze's here. So now you can get Rome Odunze, who's probably going to be your new wide receiver one. Look, I'm a TCU fan, so I love Quentin Johnston, but his rookie season was a dumpster fire, and he is the number one receiver on the Chargers offense right now. It is bad. I could easily see them sticking at 5 just because of that. You know, like, I mean, I don't really see many scenarios where they don't trade back to try to get one of these receivers right here. This works out very well for them. If they do trade back from 5, they pass on Malik Neighbors. They still get Odunze, who is a great prize in return for that. At least that's how I view it. Huge need for them. Then we get to the Broncos. The Broncos need everything. They need absolutely everything. Like, it's bad. They don't have the worst team, but they could use depth everywhere. They could use corner depth. Terrion Arnold to go alongside Pat Surtain. I think he's the best corner in this class. I mean, they need offensive line. You could go Jared Verse, a great edge rusher. I think because they really need a quarterback. But do you draft Bo Nix or Michael Penix with the 12th overall pick? Maybe they're really in love with one of those guys and do take him. It seems high for both of them. I know a lot of people like Michael Penix. He had a great season this past year, but you can't forget the medical history. He's had 4 season-ending injuries in college, which is very concerning. He played 6-7 seasons. He's already an older prospect. The injury history's there. He's great throwing inside the numbers, incredibly accurate. He's got good arm strength. He's a decent athlete. But as far as his accuracy on throws outside the numbers and the high-low accuracy isn't quite there, there's just too many question marks. Bo Nix is very experienced, had the most starts for a quarterback in NCAA history. So he's also in play there. I'm not sure. But I think with the Broncos, I think you get a guy like Terrion Arnold and pair him with another Alabama corner and Pat Surtain. You could have potentially one of the best corner duos in the league in the next couple years. Is Arnold that good? He definitely could be. I think he's the best overall corner in this class. Quinyon Mitchell is all potential. He's potentially the best corner in this class. But he went to a smaller school, so you never know how he's going to measure up to the competition. Terrion Arnold just makes too much sense here. Now, when you get to the Raiders, they also need everything, including a quarterback. I'm tempted to say they probably aren't going to reach on a quarterback. They signed Gardner Minshew, who's a decent spot starter / guy that you could put in for a year or two. It looks like they seem to like Aiden O'Connell from what they got last year. Okay, sure. I mean, he didn't play terrible for considering the situation. So what are their main needs? I mean, they need a corner. They need a tackle. I love Olu Fashanu. He's much more of a left tackle than a right tackle, which the Raiders don't really. They more need a right tackle. So I'm tempted to go J.C. Latham, who is just an absolute monster. He's like 360 pounds, like 6'7". He's an absolute beast. This is interesting, but they also they could also go corner. That's the thing. Nate Wiggins is so talented. He's got some things against him, though. They just signed Christian Wilkins. They don't really need defensive tackle. I'm gonna go Olu Fashanu. I think he's too good. I think you could play him at either side of the tackle. The knock against him is that he has struggled as a run blocker. Apparently, according to the grades. I'm not gonna act like I'm some offensive line expert, but according to all the metrics, he has struggled as a run blocker, but has been as good of a pass blocker as there is. He's an NFL-ready pass blocker, and I think that's just it's too much for the Raiders to pass on here, which kind of sucks for the Saints because the Saints would love Olu Fashanu. That would be fantastic for them. Do they go? I feel like it's either J.C. Latham or Jared Verse. They need tackle. They need edge. I think they already have a good defense, and they need to work on their offense. So I think taking J.C. Latham just makes too much sense. Like I said, he's just a massive human being. He's an absolute monster. He's so refined. He is a right tackle. Moving him to left tackle would be not a great idea. But he's so good that I think that he makes a lot of sense to be the pick here for the Saints. For the Colts, this is where I'm going to go Quinyon Mitchell. I'm not sure exactly. Absolute athletic freak. Was an incredible coverage corner. Did everything right at Toledo, but Toledo is an MAC school. It's a smaller school. That's kind of the knock against him. But as far as potential, there's no better corner in this class. He could be absolutely fantastic. The Colts like to draft these really athletic guys to pair on their team. They need corner bad. I could see this being receiver. This could be Brian Thomas Jr., but I just think corner's the more pressing need for them at the moment. So that's where I go there. The Seahawks are interesting, because once again, I'm between an edge and a tackle. Jared Verse is good, but he's just not great. It's just not a great edge class. Laiatu, anybody thinking Laiatu, he's probably got the highest floor in the class, I would say, and he's so talented. But he has very bad injury history. He had to medically retire from football a few years ago. He eventually came back and played at UCLA. Just a ton of neck injuries. It's a big risk taking Laiatu. That's why he's going to dip. I still think he's a first-round pick, but he's going to dip. Seattle, I think Troy Fautanu, I mean, he played at Washington. It's that Seattle area. I mean, it's just like, it's not too far of a commute. He's kind of a hometown guy. He's most likely going to move into guard at the next level, and that's what the Seahawks need. They need an elite guard. Troy Fautanu is used to playing tackle. He's used to playing against all types of defensive players. Moving him into guard would be very good. But I'm going to go Jared Verse. I just think they need to improve the defense. And Jared Verse is an incredible power rusher. Probably the best in the class. He's not as refined as Laiatu, but with the injury history, I just think Jared Verse makes the most sense. The Jaguars could go a number of directions. I think they need a corner. I mean, they signed Gabe Davis. I don't think that stops you from getting a receiver. Gabe Davis has not been very good the last couple years. I mean, he shows flashes, but you kind of want more from almost a veteran at this point. They need interior offensive line. It's interesting, but I just think Nate Wiggins is too talented. The knock against him is that he's way smaller than a lot of people thought. He measured in only like 170 pounds at the combine, which is tiny. He's not going to be a great run tackler, which is a huge deal for a corner. But as far as in pass coverage, he is an absolute ball hawk. He's incredible at tracking the ball. He's insanely athletic. He can keep pace with any receiver that you put him against, and he's great in coverage. As far as a cover corner goes, it's hard to pass on Nate Wiggins. It's just at the NFL level, you need to be able to tackle running backs as well. It's just way too important. But the talent is there, and I think that with the defense that the Jaguars have, Nate Wiggins is just too good of a fit. Now we get back to the Bears. This ends up being a very good trade back for them. What do they need? They probably need another edge rusher on the opposite of Montez Sweat. You could go receiver. Brian Thomas Jr. is so good, and then you have your guy for the future. I know Keenan Allen is super old, so like it's not like he's gonna be there forever. You want to have a cemented offense for the future. There's a few things, but what I actually think is really fun, what would really complete the offense right now, is Jackson Powers Johnson, who's one of the best center prospects we've ever seen. Absolute monster human being. He's a giant. He's absolutely incredible. He played great at Oregon as a guy that very rarely allowed pressures, never allowed sacks. He's as good of a center as it gets. The Bears offensive line on the outside, they've got two pretty good tackles finally. You bring in your young quarterback. Why not bring in a young center to pair with him? I just think it makes the most sense, especially since your receivers are mostly good for this year. You can still wait and get receiver later with all those picks you got from the Bengal trade. I think taking Jackson Powers Johnson is just too good of a fit to go to the Bears here. Now the Rams. The Rams need everything. Once again, they literally there's so many ways you could go as far as the Rams. The really things they only don't need, I mean, I would say quarterback, but I wouldn't even hate them drafting a quarterback in the future to learn under Matthew Stafford for a year or two. I mean, they don't need a receiver. They're good at, like, tight end. They don't need a. I'm thinking edge rusher. I want to say Latu. It's another thing. Like I try not to be too biased to that, but like I mean, he went to UCLA. This is the LA Rams. Like that's just a cool fit that he can stay in LA and play there. They have some other big needs, but I think with the premier corners off the board, they probably don't go Cooper DeJean because Cooper DeJean could be a safety. I think he could stick at corner. He definitely can. But I think Latu is just too talented that you go ahead and take him. You need improvement on the defense. I could see this also being defensive interior. A certain player that on their interior who I don't remember the name. Some guy. He was kind of good, I guess, just retired. But Kobe Turner was such a good rookie that I don't think you need to worry about that quite yet. Adding Latu on the edge, if he can stay healthy, it's a home run pick for the Rams. Now the Steelers are probably upset JPJ went a couple hit picks before them. They desperately need a center. The most Steelers pick here is Amarius Mims. Amarius Mims is not a very experienced tackle prospect. He's only played... He only had like 8 starts at Georgia, something like that. He had a few injury issues, but the potential is off the charts. He tested as top it was like 99th percentile of agility and athleticism for tackles in combine history. It's actually crazy. So he's got so much potential. He could develop into an incredible tackle, and I just think that's one of the biggest needs for the Steelers as this team that's going into a new offensive identity, new quarterback situation that's kind of crazy there, what their future is looking like. I just think Amarius Mims makes the most sense to develop along some of those other guys they got. Dolphins. They really need offensive line, and they really need defensive interior. Their offensive line is really bad. You want to protect Tua. Troy Fautanu's still there. I can't believe I've had him dip this far. He's so talented. But so is Byron Murphy. Byron Murphy's really good. I want to go Byron Murphy here, but Troy Fautanu is an incredible, flexible, offensive line player, and the Dolphins' offensive line was terrible last year. They need to improve that. If they're looking to lock up Tua soon, they're looking to give him a massive extension. You got to keep him healthy. That was an issue a couple years ago with all the head injuries. It just a player like Fautanu who can play tackle probably on either side. He was a left tackle at Washington. You could also move him into guard if you really need that. It just makes the most sense to me. I think that's what you need to do for the future of your team. Now, the Philadelphia Eagles die. I hate them. I really hate the Eagles. But I actually think the Eagles are an interesting team. They usually draft like offensive linemen in the first round or defensive linemen. They never draft anything too glamorous, unless they draft like Jalen Reagor. What a bust. But what I think is fun here, a team that has had quite the turbulent offseason is the Buffalo Bills. In pretty much every way, they've kind of lost the offseason. Now, I definitely think we see a situation where the Bills want to trade up a few picks because there's a player that is just too talented for them to pass up on. I just want to make sure they accept this, so I'm going to pile this on. Yeah, they accepted it. So I think the Bills will trade up with the Eagles and take Brian Thomas Jr., another insanely talented receiver who in a lot of classes would probably be wide receiver 1. In this class, he's wide receiver 4. That just shows you how good of a wide receiver class this is. Led all of CFB in touchdown receptions last season. He had like 16 or 18, something crazy. He's a great deep threat, incredibly fast. He can play all over the field. He has some issues separating as far as a route runner. He needs to be more refined as a route runner. But you take a guy with this amount of speed and athleticism and pair him with Josh Allen's arm talents, get out of here. And they need receiver so bad. Their number 1 receiver's Khalil Shakir. Yeah, they need to draft a receiver. This could also be around here as a spot where I think the Chiefs would be dangerous to trade up for. And if the Chiefs traded over the Bills and took Brian Thomas Jr., that might actually be like the most catastrophic event for Bills fans of all time. So I like this Bills trade up here. Now, the Chargers. Their first pick, they got Rome Odunze. They're pretty happy about that. This is their second first-round pick from the trade back. They definitely have a lot of needs, but I think what I really like here, actually, is finally to see Cooper DeJean. I love Cooper DeJean. I'm a TCU fan, but I also support all Iowa schools. I love the Iowa Hawkeyes. My family are all Iowa fans. We love Cooper DeJean, and I think he's so talented. He could easily stay at corner. He finally got to do some athletic testing coming off his broken fibula, and he was an outstanding athlete. I know it's like a whole thing, like, oh, there hasn't been a white corner in 20 years, and, you know, there's a stigma with that. But he is definitely good enough to stay as a boundary corner. He might move to safety. Either way, the Chargers need it, and I think he's so talented that he'd be a big boost to their defense, and a cheap boost because they've been trying to, you know, their cap space issues have been terrible. I think that that's an incredible pick for them. Cowboys, there's a lot of directions they could go, but I think with Byron Murphy still there, you know, he's a Texas player, you keep him in state. I think your interior, your defensive line needs improvement. You obviously got some talented players on the edge. I just think that the fact that you get him at 24 is actually that's a steal. It'd be an instant boost to your defensive line. He's a great player. He will live in the backfield. He will absolutely disrupt so many things and just maul through interior offensive linemen. I think he's a great player. Keep him in Texas. I like that. All right, Justin. Do you have any inputs on the Green Bay Packers first round selection?
Well, personally, if I could get Cooper DeJean, I would, but I tell you who I think we're gonna get is Kool-Aid McKinstry. I've been seeing nothing but us meeting with him and like interviewing him all over I go. So if we don't take it, if he's still there and we don't take him, I honestly don't know who we would take with that pick, if not him or...
I'm between two players here, Kool-Aid McKinstry being one of them. If you guys draft Cooper DeJean, I might stop watching football. That'd make me so upset. I would be so angry to have to play against him twice a year. But I'm between two players here. Kool-Aid McKinstry, which would be a great fit. The other one I'm thinking is Graham Barton. I know he's listed as a center here because he's expected to move into center. But he played left tackle in college and he was great at it. He's got shorter arms, but he played at every position on the offensive line in college. And offensive linemen like that are so rare to come by. And really, I think the Packers should draft tackle. Their tackle situation is awful. They need a new left tackle. But the best one is Graham Barton, who's expected to move more inside anyway. So I think I'm going to go with Kool-Aid McKinstry. It just makes the most sense. I think Eric Stokes was a really promising young player. He looked really good for a while. But the injuries have kind of caught up with him. Obviously, they have Jair, one of the top 3 corners in the league, probably. He's as good as it gets. You add Kool-Aid McKinstry across from him. He's got some issues finding the ball in the air. His ball tracking skills are not great. But the athleticism is there. The cover talent is obviously there. His name is Kool-Aid. It's actually his nickname. His real name is Quincy. So, this is kind of, if he turns out to be what he's potentially to be, it's kind of a nightmare for my Vikings. But I just think that that's just too good of a pick. I like the idea of Graham Barton, but since he's probably not going to be able to stick at tackle in the league, I think that they go Kool-Aid McKinstry here. Now, the Buccaneers are also a team that needs just about everything. They have so many needs. I mean, they're probably upset that Kool-Aid got taken. That'd be a dream pick for them here at 25. The Cardinals probably also mad about that at 27. It says they need receiver. They actually have some decent young receivers, and they kept Mike Evans, one of my favorite players, so I don't really see the need to go there. I'm trying to pick between Graham Barton, who I could be offensive line flexibility for them, and Chop Robinson. But I'm going to elevate Chop Robinson here. He could easily dip to the second round. I would not be surprised if that happened. But he is just so talented. Didn't play much at Penn State. He might be more of a revolving edge rusher and maybe not an every down guy. But when he's out there, he is as explosive as it gets. He will blow past any tackle and absolutely disrupt quarterbacks in every way. He's so talented. I like Chop Robinson to the Buccaneers there. Get some pass rush help. It's just too valuable. Now, the Cardinals are probably pissed because Kool-Aid and Chop Robinson just went on back-to-back picks right before them. They used Marvin Harrison Jr. with their first-round pick, so they probably don't go receiver again. I wouldn't be shocked if they double-dipped on receiver because their receiver room is just awful right now. Ooh, this is interesting.
Oh, speaking earlier how I said we got that former first-round pick It was Andre Dillard, tackle
yeah.
from the Titans. That's who it was. I couldn't remember. I just saw that.
Yeah. Andre Dillard. I remember that when he got drafted. Yeah, he's been terrible so far in his career. So maybe he'll be good for the Packers. I hope not. That would suck for me.
Yeah, I mean, we needed a tackle, I guess. I don't think we needed him as a tackle, but
I mean, you got to try something. That ever since Bakhtiari started getting injured every year, it's just been a terrible revolving door up there.
Yeah, I'm gonna miss him, but I also don't miss him eating up like what was it, $23 million on our bench.
Absurd contract to never play. So this is interesting. I think the Cardinals, with who's available, I don't hate Tyler Guyton. Very athletic tackle out of Oklahoma. We'll play at right tackle. They have their left tackle of the future, most likely in Paris Johnson. Had a promising rookie year. Obviously wasn't great, but rookie left tackle is about as hard as it gets to play in the NFL. So cutting him some slack, he did show a lot of promise. But Jerjon Newton, I mean, he's also an absolute machine. He's a bit undersized, but he plays up in size at his position. He lives in the backfield. He can be an absolute disruptor for any type of quarterback, to force a lot of scrambles, to put a lot of pressure on the interior offensive line. And I just think the Cardinals' defense is so bad. The Cardinals are just so bad. They really overperformed last year, winning 4 games, whatever it was. I think this is an ideal first round for them. You add your cornerstone wide receiver for your franchise quarterback, and you bring in a guy like Johnny Newton. I think this is a good first round for them. Eagles, I wish I could give them a trash can. I don't want them to draft anybody good. But looking at how this has played out, Graham Barton is still available. I just think that he ends up being a Philadelphia Eagle. You just look, they love drafting linemen in the first round. It's just the thing that they like. It's the thing that Howie Roseman likes to do. It's a little weird this isn't a Georgia player because they only like to draft Georgia players typically. He went to Duke. But you have a guy like this, like Graham Barton, that can play every position on the offensive line, and how invaluable that could be, developing wherever you want. I just think they'd be salivating at the mouths to have a player like that, so I think that's a perfect fit. Now the Lions. The Lions have some interesting needs. They kind of need an edge rusher. They have Aiden Hutchinson. They kind of need someone on the other side. Justin Houston's he's there. They kind of do. They don't really need a receiver, but they kind of do. Amon-Ra is obviously great, but outside of him, you don't have many go-to guys. They also really need corner. Their corner drafting history is awful. I think all of the first-round corners that will go in the first round are gone. I don't think anybody's worth it at this point. Ennis Rakestraw is decent. TJ Tampa I don't see as a first-round pick, maybe not even a second-round pick. What I actually think here is what it comes down to. I'll have to see what he's listed on this website, if he's an edge or he is an edge. So Darius Robinson out of Missouri. He's an edge defensive tackle hybrid, and I think that's exactly what the Lions could use. He's a freak athlete. He's been elevated a lot as being a potential first-round pick. A lot of scouts really like him. If you need him to play on the inside or on the outside, he can absolutely destroy some offensive lines if you need him to. He's a big guy. I think that's a really good, versatile pick for the Lions right there at 29. At 30 with the Ravens. This is interesting. This is very interesting. I'd say their biggest needs are tackle and wide receiver. You want to add some more wide receivers. You lost Odell Beckham Jr. in the offseason. You got Zay Flowers. He's great. They retained, I think, Nelson Aguilar, but you kind of want another number one guy to go along with them. Adonai Mitchell is so talented. But Tyler Guyton, with the type of team that the Ravens are, they usually draft guys that will bolster their run game unless they absolutely need to draft a receiver like Zay Flowers last year. Tyler Guyton's an athletic right tackle to add to your team. Incredible run blocking on the right side to help get also great protection for Lamar. He's still a bit raw, but he's so athletic, so much potential. I think he'll be a great pick there. The 49ers, I also think they're either offensive line or corner. They just need to bolster their depth, really. They're a pretty complete team. They don't need a lot of things. But a player I really like for them to go, this is a lot of first-round tackles. It's how I think it's actually going to be. Kingsley Suamataia out of BYU. That name's a bit of a mouthful. Very raw tackle, very developmental, has great hand skills. I think he'll make a lot of sense. They really need a tackle opposite Trent Williams. I think this is a great developmental guy. You have such a great team that there's not going to be a lot of pressure on him. You put him in right there on the right side and just keeps that offensive line bolstered for the future. I think that's absolutely fantastic. And the last pick of the first round, the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, they're definitely going receiver. They desperately needed receiver last season. Their best receiver was Rashee Rice. They signed Marquise Brown. You still desperately need a receiver. Rashee Rice is probably going to prison. Don't know what's going on with that. You still desperately need a receiver even more now. So Adonai Mitchell is an absolute freak and is definitely going to be a first-round pick. I know Xavier Worthy is the guy that a lot of people have talked about. He broke the 40-time combine record. That's great. He's gonna go in the first 2 rounds. But look at John Ross.
I was going to say John Ross.
Yeah,
he did not turn out very well.
Adonai Mitchell, I mean, he's a decent route runner. He has great hands and he has great body control. There's not much wrong with him as a player. Apparently, on plays not designed for him, he doesn't give much, and that's been the issue with him on his effort on plays that don't directly involve him. You're going to have that in young players. That's kind of the thing. But the talent here, and to go to a Chiefs team, give Patrick Mahomes, Adonai Mitchell's like 6'4", go up and get the ball receiver. I think that would just be great for their offense. I hate to say that. I really want them to stop winning, but
yeah.
I just think that's a perfect fit for them.
I know we said we were going to do 2 rounds, but I did just look at the time, and we were like 46 minutes. Probably be like another 46 minutes or so to get the whole second round. So maybe we'll come back and do that some other time before the draft. Or maybe I'll do some looking up, and we can do my first round before the draft this Thursday. That's when it is, right? This Thursday?
Yeah, next Thursday. It's a week away.
Yeah. But if you guys like this new way that we're doing the podcast and want to see me make a whole first round selections, let us know. We're probably going to do it anyways because I don't think anybody's going to let us know.
Probably not.
But if you guys enjoyed this, like it, subscribe. Go check out me and Ellis's solo channels. Link down below. Yep. Make sure to roast both of us, I suppose. I don't know if maybe Ellis isn't going to, but Ellis could start making his own videos again now, if he wanted.
Hopefully, we'll see.
We'll see how it goes, but give him a subscribe anyways. Go give me a subscribe. Go check out Ellis's other channel, his other podcast. AmityCast. Not very active recently, but I mean, hey, we haven't been very active recently either.
Hopefully, summer's coming up. We got some big stuff planned. No, we don't. Don't worry, it'll be great.
You got a lot of movies that you guys watch you can talk about now.
That's true.
All right, well, we hope you guys enjoy, and we'll see you next time. Bye.